Yo, people, we back. We back after a week gone. Obviously, we didn't post any content. Our bad. There's a lot of things going on in life, so you can't always do the things that you want to do. But we back. So it's always good to be living in the present. We're back here again. So to what's it called? To be happy that we're back. You know what will make us happy as well. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with your people. But quite a lot's happened in the last couple of weeks since we're gone. Obviously, Ralph's come in now. Carrick did his thing for a couple of games. But let's focus just on this weekend. And the first game of the weekend was West Ham versus Chelsea. Obviously, Sarah couldn't make it, to gloat. But you know what? I didn't even actually watch the game. I saw a match the other day in it, but obviously you watched it. So I want to gather your thoughts on the game and just like how it went. Because I saw Mendy had a shocker. And he's a one-off in it, but still there were some alarming things there. But what did you get from the result?
Do you know what? I think this game more than I knew before kind of highlighted to me that Chelsea kind of struggled to create chances when they dominate the ball. I think when Chelsea have the ball for the majority of the game is not when they're at their strongest. And coming up against West Ham, who is a team that is very, very happy to sit back and they are very strong in the counter-attack, you could say to a certain extent it played into West Ham's hands. But even given that, I don't think Chelsea were bad. I think it was just a couple, obviously individual mistakes is a lot of the time the real decider of games, and obviously Mendy had two bad mistakes. Jorginho was pretty poor, but I think Chelsea, they need to find a way to fix that chance creation problem, and I'm not sure how Tuchel is going to do that. And because, as I was saying to you even before, you're not in the best of form right now, and for a team that's going for the title, when you compare yourself to Man City and Liverpool, these teams are like the finished article. Like, I wouldn't look at any of Man City or Liverpool and say they have one real big area of weakness. So like, if you're competing with them, you need to address the areas of weakness that you have. So I think Tuchel, if he wants to win the title this year, he will need to address that ASAP, because Chelsea can't be having a bit, because right now you're I think you've won 2 in your last 5. You can't have that sort of form and be up with the big boys. So I'd be interested to see how he makes them adjustments, which players he uses, who he hasn't used. Because I thought it was interesting that Lukaku was dropped for the game. I mean, he's not quite had the impact that I think Chelsea fans kind of hoped, but it's still very, very early days. And to write him off is, to me, would be ludicrous. So, as I said, them adjustments would be interesting. But in terms of West Ham, I think that performance really kind of summed up West Ham this season and summed up what they're about. And they're very, very structured, very disciplined, very organized. They just know what they're meant to do, how they're meant to do it, and how they fit together as a team. And coming up against someone like Chelsea, like even just like Chelsea at home or away, whichever, is going to be a very difficult game. Like even when Chelsea played Arsenal, we're meant to be bigger rivals than West Ham to you and more competitive. The majority of our fan base is talking about, oh, it's a free hit. It's a free hit. We can't expect to compete with them. And then you have West Ham who go into that game thinking, we can compete with Chelsea. Let's give them a game, and they got their reward for it. So, like I said, I'm very impressed with West Ham's structure, discipline, and just overall their commitment. To be honest, so yeah.
100. I hear that. Should we give more West Ham prop before we go into Chelsea? I mean, we've spoken a lot about West Ham. We've spoken about the brilliance of Antonio, the evolution of Rice becoming like a complete midfielder.
He was incredible that game, to be fair. Rice was very...
Zuma adding more stability to the back line as well. Like, I don't think there's much more you can praise West Ham than what we already have there. As you say, they're a very well organized team. They defend together. They press in a unit. Obviously, they're not like a high intensity pressing team, but
they press in bursts.
Yeah, they press you in bursts. You know, them ones there. So yeah, they're just a well-organized team. I don't think there's much more to say in it. But yeah, let's look at Chelsea and the creativity issue because we've discussed this as well. And I think a big part of the
Mm.
issue, I've always said is that I feel like we're a bit too rigid at times, but also not just that. I feel like there's a lack of chemistry with the attacking players. You know, we've seen Tuchel constantly chops and changes it. Sometimes you see Havertz, Werner, Ziyech. I think Mount is the only solidified starter, so we'll take him out. But you're constantly seeing rotations in those teams, and with every great title-winning team, they always have a solid attack. You might have one player that kind of drops out, but the reality is you always have a solid player in the attack. And I feel like that's one thing Tuchel probably has to be more willing to do is to kind of allow players to have the 4 or 5 bad games that they're going to have because they are human and allow them to build the chemistry, the understanding, that second nature of understanding each other's run. Because when we watch the attack, sometimes it feels a bit disorganized. Like there's not a flow to it.
Mm.
Obviously, we know that City and Liverpool, they're 4 or 5 years into their project, so there's a certain level of how do you say repetition. Like
Yeah.
they know the basics, they know what they're doing in it, in the sense, if you get what I mean. While Chelsea, they don't have that. This is Tuchel. I think next month will be Tuchel's first year, like calendar year, total at Chelsea. So yeah, like Chelsea are basically playing 4 years worth of catch up. So I feel like there will always be an element of maybe chinks in the armor that you can say, in a sense. But
But
yeah,
would you say that's tactical, or would you say that's due to tactical or personnel though? Because me personally, I think a lot of the kind of struggles you've had in the attacking kind of zone is due to the fact that you have loads of different profiles, and I don't think all of them really fit together perfectly, or not even perfectly, just kind of fit together. Because like the likes of Ziyech, Mount, Havertz, I don't see how you can get even two of them to play together. And then you throw Lukaku in there. There's Werner, Hudson-Odoi. I struggle to see where you can get that kind of coherent front three, if you want to call it. And that might be one of the big issues.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. And you know, that's probably one thing that I think that people, when we analyze Chelsea, we haven't looked enough at is the profiles on whether they really gel together. Because when you look at it, it's a bit of a mix and match. Like Ziyech is like your primary ball handler who keeps the ball, like your attack is facilitated through Ziyech. Then you have your runners in almost not Mount. Mount's kind of a hybrid, but in Havertz and Werner. And then you got Cho, who's probably your primary ball handler as well. So you have two in the squad. And then you kind of have Lukaku as your main out and out striker in it. So yeah, it's kind of just a mixture and match kind of thing. You know, I've even forgot Pulisic as well. There's another guy there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, yeah, you're right. There isn't really a coherent, okay, here's the primary ball handler, here's the off the ball runner, and maybe two off the ball runners. You get what I'm saying? It's a bit, sometimes you see two primary creators. So you have Cho and Ziyech playing, and then you have Havertz up top. Doesn't truly mesh together. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's another thing. I think we've spoken about this, but what would your best front three for Chelsea be?
I think Lukaku has to be there, to be honest. For me, Lukaku, I personally would put Hudson-Odoi because I just think he's really one of the few out and out wingers that you have, and he's a creative winger as well. So he will help, in my opinion, with them creativity problems. And as mad as it sounds, I think Werner also works well with Lukaku, just because he gives him, even though he's technically not a great footballer and his finishing sometimes can be questionable. I think just between his pace, movement, and positioning, it will open up more for Lukaku, which ultimately is your main goal, to be honest.
To be honest, even though I buzz Werner, I do hear that because Werner will work quite closely with Lukaku. And we know one thing with Lukaku, Lukaku isn't your target, man. Like,
Mm.
Lukaku isn't Drogba. Like, Lukaku ain't holding man off all the time, bringing man into play. Like, he's improved on his technical side of play, but we saw, and Lukaku said it himself, he's at his best when he's face in front and running at opponents. He's
Yeah.
not as good when he's got his back to goal and he's having to be constantly forced to bring players into play, drop deeper, facilitating play and stuff like that. That's not Lukaku's game. He wants to run into he wants to just run in transition, really. And that's one thing with Chelsea is that he's just too rigid. Like, we're having him just stay centrally. But you look at some of Lukaku's best goals for Inter, they're on the transition.
Coming transition, yeah.
Yeah, so Tuchel has to kind of change that, where maybe this is where Havertz comes in, because Havertz can do the dropping in, and then you have Lukaku make runs off Havertz, in a sense, if you get what I mean.
But I don't see Havertz as a main ball carrier, because I think passive player, in my opinion, and I don't really see him dominating games in the way that you'd expect the main ball handler to do, if you know what I mean.
Havertz is another weird one as well, man.
I think he's the weirdest profile of the lot, to be honest, because with him, I think he's difficult, because, as I said, he's quite a passive player, but he's also got very good movement, and I think in the final third he's very good as well.
Yeah.
And when you're playing three at the back, I don't see how you fit that, essentially like a number 10 shadow striker profile, in when you've got like a 9 and a winger, and Mount, who's at 8 as well. It's a very difficult kind of conundrum.
I don't think he's bad. I think his best position would be as a false nine, where he's playing up top. I feel that kind of allows him just to almost occupy just the final third, because I trust him in the final third. I thought my only thing with Havertz is just the misconception that people have, that he's almost this complete attacking player, where, like you're saying, where he's the ball handler, where he's carrying the ball forward. That's not really his game. His game is in and around the penalty box, making those runs, making maybe a key pass, just drawing defenders out. That's one thing I look at Havertz. And someone, Nini, one of these Chelsea content creators, he described him as a ghost. You don't see him. You just see him in the box. You get what I'm saying? And I do agree with that.
Yeah, I think the best profile I think that we've seen in the league to compare him to is someone like Özil. I'd say Özil and Ali is the two kind of profiles I compare him to, in the sense that, but when I say Ali, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because he's clear
I
of
think
Ali
Ali's a better example, because I think Özil will be more involved in the play than Havertz.
Yeah, but I think Havertz is a lot better at creating chances than Ali was, which is kind of
I think
hard to
Ali's a better example, but Havertz is just better quality than Ali. Yeah, I agree with that. But do you think, final topic before you move on, do you think the back three is an issue, or?
Well, Chelsea's back three.
Yeah.
I think in terms of defensively, not at all. But my only question, which I think I said to you before, is, does the having a back three and being so rigid take away from you going forward, be the explanation for the lack of chance creation? It might not be, but that could be why you're poor going forward. But the thing I'd say is, that might not even be an issue if you're the best defensive side in the world, which you could say for the last year, Chelsea pretty easily have been the best defensive side in the world. So we'd have to see how that is going forward. But as of right this second, I wouldn't say so.
I feel like with the back three, I don't think it's as big as an issue, because I feel like formations matter a lot less nowadays. I feel it's just more the roles that you're given. Because if you actually look at Chelsea in possession, the wings back, they even come in narrow nowadays. Like they invert, and then you have your Cho or your Mount staying out wide. So when you look at in possession, is just like Arsenal do the same thing in possession. They play like a 3-2-5 in possession. Chelsea do exactly the same thing. So back threes, I don't think matters much. I think it's just the role that you're given in football nowadays is more important than the actual formation. But Yeah, Chelsea, we're going to see as the season goes on. I think we're going to get our answers more and more as the season goes on. But another new team with a new manager now. New manager bounce, United. They beat Palace 1-0. Palace were quite poor, I can't lie. Like United penned them back a lot. But United
But
looked good.
were Palace poor or United good, do you think? Or a bit of both?
It'll probably be more United were better than
Mm.
Palace being poor. Because I thought United really did press them well, and we saw the high turnovers. And United sustained pressure a lot better. They kept the ball a lot better. They didn't force it as much. But to be honest, now they look pretty good. They look pretty good. I can't lie. What about you? What did you think? Encouraging signs?
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say I like the 4-2-2 that they set out with. I think you were even saying before that that's what you would have gone with, I think, a while ago. And I tend to agree. I think it does facilitate a lot of their players. I could see, even though I don't particularly like him on the left, I could see Pogba moving to the left on that 4-2-2. I think obviously you've got Ronaldo up front with either one of Rashford or Greenwood, which we'll see how that works. Sancho on the right, but maybe even Bruno up top as well, actually. But yeah, we'll see. I think the pressing is the most important thing, to be honest. And I think that's because that's the one thing that people have really earmarked Man United as like doing badly in recent games, that they're horrible pressers, and that's the reason why they're conceding goals. And that's the one big thing that we saw in the Palace game, that very, very high and sustaining that pressure, as you said, which is very encouraging for them. But I still feel like they should have been better, if you know what I mean. Like, because I don't, Palace definitely have performed better this year. Palace have had performances where they've played a lot better than they did. And Man United didn't beat them as convincingly as they probably should have, given how Palace didn't play too well. Like it took essentially a Fred Wonder goal to win them the game, which is it's a win at the end of the day, but you'd have wanted to see more, to be honest. So I'd be interested to see, because I know their next run of games is relatively easy. The next 10 or whatever games is relatively easy. But I know once they hit March, they play essentially all the big six in a row, like it's on Football Manager schedule or something like that. But I think that little cluster of big six games will essentially decide whether Man United are the real deal or it's just a bit of a flash in the pan. Because we all know about Arsenal more than ever. Like when I remember, like the first couple of games we got Arteta, we played completely differently to how we played before under Emery, and it wasn't really sustainable.
Yo, man, like cars in the
Yeah,
building. What are you saying, man?
yeah, good. We signed
Yeah,
that.
Cool, man.
you just missed the Chelsea thing, but
It's a good, it's a good
don't
one.
worry. Maybe next time, innit? Maybe next time, because you can't bother to recycle all the way back, innit? We'll
No,
talk
but
about United.
yeah, new manager.
Well, did you watch the game?
I saw parts of it. Yeah, I saw parts of it. They
What was your thoughts?
and the thing is, they played well. Like, of course, if any manager is going to be new manager bounce with any manager. I was surprised with players that performed. Like, obviously, Fred is somehow performing very well. I think like Danfrey said this already, but you know, Fred's performing well. I think he's got a lot of potential. Like, he knows his stuff, their manager. But their fixtures over the next, I think it's like next 6-7 games. Now they're in good hands. To be fair, they have a good chance to get like a good run, which is what they need. So I can't just completely blame it on a new manager bounce. The fixture in their favour, and obviously they made the right decision to get rid of Ole at this point, so that it can get back into the top four. But yeah, it does mean the Premier League can get very competitive over the next like 6-7 weeks. Personally, I don't know if Man United will all of a sudden be up there, but yeah, probably not like just straight away. But it does give them a chance to like close that gap on top four from where they are, I guess. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of teams in the mix right now. Arsenal, West Ham, of course.
So let me try and pull up the team. I want to see which players do we think are gonna come in So let me pull it up.
I want to see what he does with the midfield though. Him and the
Yeah,
new coach who comes in at the end, because I think everyone can be of agreement. That's the area that they kind of need to sort first.
I think he's going to last with them for the season, man. I think McTominay and Fred, because they kind of epitomize his high pressing style, innit? They're bundles of energy, and they're gonna you hard yards is what we associate with McFred. Like they're gonna work for the team, innit? So I feel like because Matic isn't gonna give you that intensity. Donny can, but I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really see Donny as a sort of high pressing sort of player. I see him as like kind of like a lower tempo guy
technical.
where
Yeah,
he's about ball retention rather than the direct kind of nature that Ragnick brings.
I remember he played for Ten Hag, Ajax. Ajax are all about pressing.
Yeah, agreed. But and where does he fit though? Does he play in the pivot?
That's the thing.
yeah. He can't really. Yeah, he can't really play in pivot. I wouldn't trust him in terms of pivot, but in terms of one of the advanced roles, they kind of have a problem because their formation wouldn't really allow him to start every game, I guess. Because at the moment they're not dropping Fernandes or Sancho like at this current rate, or Rashford, to be honest.
No, I think Sancho and Rashford are droppable. These guys are not droppable. So yeah, but I feel like these guys are very vulnerable.
But is it? You say droppable? What is
Yeah,
it droppable? Like, because if he dropped one of them two, it'd be for Pogba or Greenwood, not Van de
that's what I
Beek.
meant. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. That's true.
I think the wing backs is interesting as well.
Yeah,
because
let's go through it. Delo, do we see him staying in that?
I personally would play him over Wan-Bissaka for this particular system because I think he's just a lot better on the ball. But long term, I'm not sure if he's the answer.
Yeah, I'd agree completely.
I think we kind of know what's his name. Varane's gonna come back in, even though Lindelof looks quite solid, and he's not dropping Maguire. Maguire had a good game.
Yeah, had a good game, but not a good season. But that's story.
Tellez.
I was impressed.
I don't know if
gone down.
I don't know if he's like a long-term starter because I think Luke Shaw, unfortunately, I think he's an inevitable guy at Man United. No matter how bad he plays, he'll get his place sooner or later.
Yeah, I was impressed with Tellez when he played, but when Luke Shaw comes back, let's be honest, because he's that guy, isn't it? They're not long term. They're gonna want Luke Shaw to advance, isn't it?
I heard it, and we're saying Pogba probably for Sancho, isn't
it? I think so.
Okay, I heard that.
Or actually, I think he might and put Pogba on that left sort of flank and then put Bruno up top because Bruno's overall position is very high anyway, so he might as well be a striker, to be honest.
To be honest, in the last game, Bruno was drifting around a lot more. He was a lot. He dressed normal anyway, but he was very much involved in the play. And you saw him combine with Sancho a lot. He was drifting to the left, to the right. So I don't know. He was given a lot more of a free role. But I think United under Ragnick are going to be very interesting, man. I think they're going to evolve a lot. But top four is going to have to be the aim for this season, unfortunately for them.
I think they definitely have to get top four. There's no excuse for not getting it.
So what's the last thing? I think there's a couple things.
Everton.
Oh yeah, before we get into Everton, Arsenal, Bernardo or Salah? Because I'm hearing this debate. Me, honestly, I don't really care for either, but I want to get you guys' thoughts. Dan, who's better at the two?
I love Bernardo Silva as a player. Honestly, like he's one of my favorite players, probably my favorite player in the league. That's a non-Arsenal player, but you can't argue with Salah's output. Let's be honest.
Is this basically output versus eye test?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so output will win, innit? Because That's where we're at right now, isn't it?
It's perspective, isn't it? It's perspective. Like I agree
Yeah.
with Dan personally. I think, like, for me personally, my favorite player would be, of those two would be Bernardo Silva, because from a technical standpoint, for me, that side he's better. Maybe when you watch him, he can do more on the field in the eye test, as you say, Josh. But in terms of what Salah's doing right now, you can't argue with the things he's doing, what he's producing, the goals, the assists. You can't actually argue against that. Like, in terms of that, he's the best player in the world right now in terms of his output in the and what people say is the best league in the world. But what Bernardo Silva is actually doing, he's actually underrated, because guys only clocking on now that he's doing all this, like the technical side, and he can shoot, he can do all these wild assists. But he's been doing it for a long, long time. But people just don't clock onto it because he's not always scoring goals. But now when he's getting a good run of goals, people kind of pay attention. But it shouldn't really have to be like that. You shouldn't have to score to kind of prove your point of if you're actually a good player. That's why I think if you did say Bernardo Silva's like it's not a bad take at all. Like, it's very reasonable.
I don't know, man. I think we have to have a conversation about the Ballon d'Or and its credibility and just how like we perceive players, because I think we have to split things up, man. Because I think we've had this conversation before. Me and them, like, should be like best defender, best midfielder, best striker. Because whenever we compare like a midfielder and an attacker, we're always gonna say, well, Salah's got 50 goals, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the longest.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, even, was it 2-3 years ago? Van Dijk was the best player in the world. And
I'm not sure. 18-19 Messi was.
I don't know. I think Van Dijk was the best player in the world at that point. Like, and I think he finished third in Ballon d'Or that year.
Yeah.
Which, if he was an attacker and he was doing that, I think his credibility for a Ballon d'Or chase would be a lot more than it was.
Yeah. I think it was only Cannavaro before that or something that he won the Ballon d'Or, but it just shows. I was looking at a good picture the other day, and it was the early 2000s and like late 90s. The Ballon d'Or was actually getting judged based on what we would say is like an eye test, based on the player's actual ability, rather than, because people, like, if he's a solid defender, back in the day, like the top Italian defenders, the top French defenders, they were getting their credit, for what they're actually providing, like, on the international stage. But these days, obviously, guys like Jorginho's exclusion, because he got rated highly for his third thing. But apart from him, there's guys that are actually doing a lot in defense, but they'll never be able to compete with Messi's stats, isn't it? Because what Messi's doing, if Messi scores 30, 40 goals in a season, you're just giving him Ballon d'Or automatically. If Ronaldo does the same, he's getting Ballon d'Or. Like, there's nothing else to it. Jorginho's not going to beat Messi or these guys to Ballon d'Or. Lewandowski unfairly. That's the whole debate with Lewandowski, his stats compared to Messi's, but it shouldn't always have to be based on numbers. Otherwise, the best forward would just win it every single year. Like, and that's what's happened over the last. I'm not taking away from anything from Messi or Ronaldo, but that's just how it's happened to work over the last 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah, Messi and Ronaldo have changed our perception of what we expect from probably even just footballers in general now, isn't it? So,
I think they're just the safe bet though in the Ballon d'Or. Like, they're the ones where, like, if they get announced as a Ballon d'Or winner, no one's really gonna be like massively irritated and like causing a riot. But I think if it's, especially if them two are still actively playing, if it's someone else that's announced as a Ballon d'Or winner, I think a lot of people are gonna see it as very controversial, even if like they deserved it.
True. We need to have a conversation about Messi, man. The guy's lost every ounce of athleticism he has now. He's just a pure 10. He's just a pure 10 now. He's literally just a pure number 10. All that. He's still quality in it, but I think we're seeing like the proper physical decline of Messi, like completely. Like, kind of like Ronaldo still has a bit of physicality, but Ronaldo had an obvious decline. When would you say? Probably after he left Real Madrid, even in his last season.
No, before that, really, because Real Madrid played it was when he started losing that side of his game, he went to just the striker role. Is that in that transition?
No. I'm talking about where he completely lost it. Like, Messi's been losing his athleticism for a minute.
Yeah. It would probably be that. Juve was the kind of the start, probably. Yeah, really, if we're being honest.
I feel like because of that, it'll probably be his last Ballon d'Or, man. Because unless he does something mad in the World Cup, if he does a mad in the World Cup, then yeah. But I don't know. I think Messi is just maybe it's a motivational thing as well because left Barcelona doesn't feel the same minute he's playing within himself. But I don't know. Physically, he just doesn't look the same player. In it.
Eden Hazard vibes.
I don't know who that guy is still, bro. I heard he retired in like 2019 still.
No, but I think Ronaldo's adapted better to them physical declines though. I think he's adapted his game, so he's still a world-class player, and he's still like a very accessible player that you could have in your team and be very useful. Whereas Messi, I fear that in 2 years' time, he won't be accessible in a team like that.
I hear that, man. I hear that. But to be honest, Ronaldo hasn't achieved much. I'm not saying it's his fault, but because of his limitations now, you kind of say he kind of handicaps his sides because what's he really achieved the last 2-3 years?
Was it all his fault though? Because Juventus was a very poor side.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault, no.
And Man United, hey, you're not going to win the league with Oli as a manager, so I wouldn't lay the blame on Ronaldo's feet.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Let's look at another team in regards to the recruitment, because Dan asked a question. It's quite a harsh question, but he said, "What do Everton stand for?" I'm going to come to Carl first. What do Everton stand for?
Can you elaborate on that question, please? Elaborate on that question.
Dan, say your point.
As a club, anything, Everton are the football equivalent of purgatory. They're not good enough to challenge to do anything of substance, and they're not bad enough to ever really be in danger. They just exist and exist to exist.
Yeah. The thing is, I was going to lean towards the closest aspect of a club to them would be a stepping stone or a progression club. But even then, the players they're producing, the likes of DCL, all these guys, they still haven't gone on to do like DCL is still there, isn't it? So he hasn't gone on, had an amazing, incredible season, gone on to a big top 4 club. So I 100% agree with Dan in that sense. But in terms of what they stand for, they are purposeless. They are a purposeless team in the Prem. They're not going to ever win the league. They're not going to challenge for top 4 with the team they have right now. For me, I see them as more of a stepping stone team, or even a team for guys from international stage who have failed in other countries, low key to come in, and that's their route to the Prem, to go through Everton. Really, not that Alan was being a bad player, but when guys maybe Asian, also they've got guys like Mina, guys that have never really been able to perform at the top European clubs. That's it. To be fair, it's a good route for European players who are not the best, but are just a good standard. That's the entry into the Premier League. So, but even then, yeah, I don't see the attractiveness. Like Josh, what would you say the attractiveness to join Everton would be? That's a good way to put it. What would you say Everton if he's a footballer, apart from the Premier League, what I just said?
But Lana, what you're saying, I think they kind of tried to make up with that by getting Carlo and Rafa.
Yeah, but
to make up for almost, I don't want to say a lack of planning, but just there was a lack of like you don't actually know what they stand for. I feel like they have ambition, but it's just not very well placed in it. It's not, they have no structure to it. Like,
yeah,
I feel like you've seen the last couple summers. I feel like their last summer was decent, and this summer wasn't very good, but it's just squad players, isn't it? But you're seeing that almost they're realizing that they're just making expensive mistakes where they're buying players like, I know he's my Niger boy, but Alex Iwobi for 40 million. What kind of waste is that,
yeah,
bro?
Sigurdsson for like 60 million as well. Like,
you're buying Nonsense for 50 million, bro. That's ridiculous.
See, Alex Iwobi, that's really Alex Iwobi is an example really of someone who's kind of not failed. I'll be honest, he failed at at Arsenal, and that's Everton is his only route into the Premier League now.
Wait, I need to say something. Alleged nods.
Allegedly, yeah,
Allegedly.
yeah,
Sorry.
allegedly,
Nods, bro.
yeah. So I see Alex Iwobi, he failed in at Arsenal. He couldn't get into their team properly. So now Everton is his direction to get in first team football in the Prem. But what does that do for Everton? It doesn't actually benefit them, as you say. It literally just means you have a team full of players who are not good enough to compete at the top level. And where are they going to go with that? Like they on the credit to them, Tifa on the credit to Everton. If you actually look at the strats of the team, they do have decent youth progression. Like if you actually look at like decent, not top, but decent, which in the credit to them, in the grand scheme of things, that would allow them to always stay up into Premier League. So they're not struggling. I know they're on a bad run of form, but for me personally, they wouldn't struggle to stay in the Premier League, which is for a club of their size. I have to give them credit. They do have good things coming up as well. They have the new stadium. You've already seen the new stadium coming up. So in that sense, from the owners, at least they're putting money to the club, and maybe in the future, I don't really see them even as getting Europa League these days, because I think a lot of teams from that top four drop down. I don't want to draw them out, but teams like Tottenham, they're now in that bracket of Europa League, competing for Europa League, and even they all struggle to get Europa League. So, and there's a lot of teams that in between the Champions League and Europa League stage, like obviously Arsenal are looking to get Champions League this season, and obviously have been in Europa League, so that's competitive as well. So Everton are nowhere near the level of Arsenal right now. So you can't even make the argue that they can maybe be a decent Europa League team now. So, and they're in a bad. The reason why they're in a bad way is because what you said, the lack of direction. Like if you're a supporter of them, but like it's how West Ham was before, like a few years ago. Like what are you playing for? Like you get your 40 points and you're done for the season. Like oh, you're not going down. Now you're just done for the season. Then it's not. If I was a footballer, you'd hate it. Surely you'd hate it. Like playing for nothing for like half the whole season. Yeah.
I think a lot of this recruitment as well, like because they spend money. Let's not act like Everton are broke or super scrimping or anything. They spend money. They just spend it so poor. I think the Iwobi deal sums it up the most, because at the time, and I remember this clearly, like because Arsenal was going through a bit of a weird phase where we were trying to get rid of a lot of players, and Iwobi was one of them. And like you can even go back and watch, like I know Arsenal Fan TV done a video on it at the time where they're talking about how much they think our players are worth. And they were saying if we could get 15 or 10 million for Iwobi, it'd be a great deal to get him off the books. And Everton come out of nowhere and give us 40 million. Like the thinking behind that was just so bad. Firstly, it's way too much. And secondly, I think he's one of the poorest wingers in the league in terms of ability and output.
Yeah.
They're spending massive money on players like this that are not going to deliver for them. Like they do have a couple nice pieces in terms of, obviously, like you said, Allen is a decent player. DTL is a good player. Richarlison, obviously, Digne is a decent enough player. I like Godfrey as well. But they need to, number one, they need to get their direction first. And number two, they need to start utilizing their funds right.
Yeah.
To actually bring them forward. Because I don't see them, like you said, I don't see them getting anywhere near Europa League anytime soon. Even conference, I don't know.
That's true. It's true. And what Dan just said, there's examples of players in their squad that they're paid a lot of money. Guys like Rondon, big up Rondon for what he's done in the past, but he's 32, 33. Like what are you trying to gain with paying him? I don't know. Like let's not be lie. He probably getting paid a lot of money at Everton. What are you gaining from having him in your squad? Because in the end of the day, he all he's going to do is hold the progression of the strikers they have, as in like DCR and Richarlison. So yeah, you kind of have to ask questions, like Dan said, to the owners, like what are you doing with this money? Are you just trying to buy any ex big name you can, despite the age, despite what they even providing? So I don't want to go into them too harsh, because who knows? Who knows? Like the next few seasons, who knows? Everything can change. But
I
right now,
because the owner's been there for like 5 years now, so we've not seen, they've probably declined.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
100% declines. Let's not act like Everton weren't a good side with like Barkley, Lukaku days. There was them days. There was a good side, There was a good side. You don't want to play. You don't want to play Everton at their ground back in Lukaku, Barkley days. A lot of top players back then, and it's from then. It's just they haven't done anything with the money they've got.
And it doesn't take too much as well, because like we've even seen with, obviously Leicester's a good example, but even Villa more recently, It took Villa like what, 2 windows essentially to go from relegation candidate, like on the brink of relegation, to battle it out in the top 10 for like 8th, 9th. And that's what, 2 windows where they haven't spent massive amounts of money, but they just invested wisely. With someone like Everton who can because I would even make an argument that Everton financially are stronger than Liverpool. Because Liverpool a lot of the time have to buy to sell, and
Yeah.
obviously they manage their assets well, so they can spend a lot of money. But Everton are in a better position to spend loads on big name players and it not work out. And considering how far they are behind Liverpool, for me, is unacceptable.
Yeah, I feel like with them, you need to, especially when you get lots of money, and it's just with life, I feel like they need a structure of, okay, this is the type of football we want to play. Maybe because you're Everton, you might want to start with a counter-attacking team. So basically how West Ham are, a very structured counter-attacking team, and then you buy players that fit that mold. And that's the key thing when you have a team structure and a team identity, you buy players that fit that mold and you hire managers that fit that mold. So you kind of go through like a pathway system, you get what I'm saying? And you set that for the whole club. Because even you look at the academy, they're not really producing many quality players as well.
They always produce just meaty, even championship level ballers like Tom Davis, bro.
So it's
The
so
thing is, yeah,
it's so systemic of their club, like that nothing is really being fruitful from their investment. And you're going for people like Rafa Benitez and Carlo Ancelotti, managers that, I'm sorry, they're not top level managers they're probably Everton level, but for the direction that Everton want to go to, I'm sorry, I'm not going for people like that. I'm going for Graham Potter stuff.
Do you know what it is though? I think maybe not Rafa Benitez, but I think Carlo Ancelotti at least could have brought them something, because it looked like, I remember when they appointed him, there was reports coming out from, I think it was The Athletic, saying that they had to hand over a lot of control and responsibility to Ancelotti, where he could make his own transfers, he could make his own decisions in terms of staff. And even if he's not a top manager, that at least gives them a sense of direction, because they're going in the direction that he wants to go, and he kind of knows to a certain extent what he wants.
I do agree with that, but in this day and age, I think that's a risky tactic because managers aren't staying as long as they once did. Because it would have been so perfect for like a David Moyes. He's there for 10, 15 years. He implements that style. But you see nowadays, we had that Everton, we had that United, we had that with Arsenal. Managers that have been there for so long that once they leave, it's almost like you don't know how to operate anymore. So maybe it is because we were having this discussion before about how some managers don't get the players that they want. And you actually start to understand why clubs do that in terms of we got a plan after you leave. Like we can't be solely just reliant on you while you're here in it. We got to think about the future and how we want to play in it. So
no one's bigger than the club, innit?
Exactly.
Including the manager.
Yeah, so it's a bit. I feel like you do have to give managers some agency to be allowed to buy the players that fits their style, but it also has to be not at the detriment of the club's long-term ambition and success in it. So,
but let's say, for example, hypothetically, if you were in charge of Everton and you made the decisions, who would you? Because I think we can all agree that Rafa Benitez is not the long-term guy, or even the guy that you want exceeding probably the end of next season. What direction would you go from there? Which manager would you appoint? What would you try and implement to try and give them that sense of direction?
For me,
you go first.
For me personally, I think the best bet would, because obviously they're not going to attract the top managers right now. So I think the best bet would be to find a younger, early-ish manager, but a manager at the early stage who has a clear direction. Like, for example, some managers in the say like the German league who they might not be respected on the global stage, but their squad is getting the results, or again, like they're playing a counter-attacking football. They're playing like press, as you say. They have something, and they have that direction. They have like a
identity.
Yeah, exactly. A clear identity from an early stage. So I think that would be the best bet, and someone that can kind of understand where they're at and be honest with themselves that they're not a top club, and they have to implement more youth players. They have to, because I know I said the youth system decent, but they're not actually. They're not showing nothing. Too much is showing for it right now, is it? So, yeah, I'd say a younger manager with a clear identity.
I think when you look at Everton, like when I look back at what they stand for, when we're looking at it now, it was a very rigid, a very tough to beat, and a very defensively solid team. You know, very tight knit. I feel like you probably want to get a manager that you want a manager in the mold of David Moyes, really, for Everton. Who I don't know who's similar in that aspect. Maybe a Brendan Rodgers, if you want to. I feel Brendan Rodgers maybe. I don't know if you'd want to go down, but Everton do have a lot of money. Who else is there? You can just go for Potter.
I was thinking Graham Potter. I think Potter has to be.
That's what I was more leaning towards. Someone like Graham Potter.
Yeah, go for Graham Potter.
And for them, they should be able to get him from Brighton. They should.
Mm-hmm. Even I know people rate him highly. Thomas Frank as well might be another good option as well. I don't know if they want to go for Scott Parker.
No, I don't think that. I don't know how that would do because I didn't really see him with a big identity either. So I don't know how that fares.
More possession orientated. He seems like he likes his team to keep the ball. You know, a bit more sustained pressure. Potter's the same as well in that sense. So, but I think Potter should be like the number one. I think Potter's the guy that everybody kind of looks at for the mid-table teams, isn't it? Because I think that he does have quite a high level. Even someone like, obviously he's way out their league, but even someone like a Poch, you know, in that mold would be someone that they should look for, innit?
Yeah, because the thing is, what they need to be careful of is see how they're falling off right now. They don't want to get into the mindset of having, oh yeah, let's just sort out the defense. Let's just keep clean sheets. Let's just make ultra defensive. Let's not try concede. Because when that starts happening, in the back of their mind, they're going into games. They're just thinking, yeah, let's not try to get beat this game. They're not, and that's when you can get in dark. That's when you get dark times. And every game, you're just you're so negative, and that's when the fans start turning against you. So you need. I can't stand teams that just attack and can't defend like Leeds, but they need to have some sort of attractiveness to keep the fans there, you know, because that's what Everton's built around, isn't it? Like it sounds cliche, but they need to have attractiveness to their football. So it can't just be completely like. Say if they start calling up guys like Sam Allardyce, that's when they just got running for the life on us. That's when you know they're really finished. Yeah,
that's two at the other end of the spectrum. I think Everton are a bit more in a balance where they're very rigid in it, but they got a bit of sauce in it, a bit of a creative. Yeah,
exactly.
100%. What's our score prediction for today then? Arsenal, Everton before we head off.
It's a recipe for disaster, to be honest, because it has all the hallmarks of an Arsenal disaster class. It's a Monday night football, so everyone's watching. Everton are on a 7-game streak without winning. I think it's at Goodison Park. And what's it called? Like I said, we're away from home. So it has all the hallmarks of a scrappy Everton 1-0 win.
Oh, damn.
He actually is at Goodison. I thought it was at the Emirates. Maybe 1-1. But I don't know.
Nah, I back Arsenal right now. I'll be honest. I think like I'll give Arsenal the credit when they deserve it. I think they got they're done well. I'll say
Arsenal dominate possession. Dominate.
I'll say good 3-1 win Arsenal.
I do hear Arsenal winning because Arsenal will just sustain pressure because Everton aren't really gonna press them aggressively like that. Maybe when there's 50-50s, like Everton will try and win those, but more time Everton will sit back and allow Arsenal to pressurize them. And Arsenal, I can't lie, Arsenal are better going forward this season compared to last season. I have seen improvements.
But last season, could we realistically have been worse going forward? We were the worst team in the league going forward last season.
Because you man just didn't create anything.
Exactly.
But this season, I feel like you do look a lot more threatening, but you're still not there yet. You still need more quality.
I think we need a striker is our biggest concern right now because, like, if you look at Aubameyang's expected goals from chances he's missed is 5.
That's a lot.
But at the same time, I think that's a positive though, because last season we were crying out saying, "Hey, Aubameyang's not getting chances." I
Yeah,
feel like it's always better when you're saying, our striker's not finishing his chances compared to, oh my days, he's getting starved. Do you get what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like Arsenal, we're not gonna talk about you too much because the game's gonna start soon. But Arsenal, there is improvement there. There is improvement.
Yeah.
So,
but they had to be though. They spent like what 200 million. If there was an improvement, then you'd be Everton.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Creativity's there. Creativity's there right now for Arsenal. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Like in terms of what they can provide from midfield, the players obviously I talk about them a lot about Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Saka, like the creativity that they provide in that at their ages, and it's only positive for them personally. That's why even though I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm not gonna lie to myself. I do see Arsenal improving a lot over the next 2 years personally. Definitely pushing towards that top four over the next not if it's not this season, then definitely over the next season.
I hear that. I think we're gonna end off. I think the match is about to start soon. So yeah, people, you back. Make sure you like, comment, share with your people. Make sure the channel grows, man. But yeah, we out. Obviously, hopefully next time we have more of us here. But you know the ones. You never know with life. But yeah, man, just smash the like button. Peace.